Okay, now we're going to create the function to create a product to the back end, as our database, from the Redux that we've created so far. So I'll come here and I'll start from the product service, and okay, I'll just go to my auth service, and excuse me, and then I'll just bring in Axios. You know what? I'll just bring in everything we have here. So just grab, copy that, and then I'll just slot that here like this. I don't think I'll be needing the toast, so I won't be needing the toast. So I'll just be using Axios and then this backend URL. Now I could have imported the backend URL here from that auth services, but I mean, let me just have it here too. It's only a single line of code. So now let's create a new product. Let's write the function to create te create new product. Aha. So now I'm going to use an asynchronous arrow function. Aha. So the name of the function is going to be create product, and this is in product service.js. Okay, now let's open this up. Now remember, when we want to create a product, we need to send some data to the backend API endpoint. So I'm going to have a parameter here which I'm going to call form data. Okay, so whenever we call this function, we're expecting that we're going to call it with the form data argument. Okay, now I'll say const and then I'll create a response that's going to be equal to our wait and then axios dot post. Yeah, now this axios dot post, we are going to post to an API URL that so we're going to post to, let me use my backticks, so an API URL or comma, and then we're going to send it with the form data. I've not created the API URL yet, we'll create it. Now when we do that, next we want to return the response.data. So return response.data, which is the product we just created. We'll just return it back to the front end. Yeah, so this is it for creating the function to create the product. And you may notice that it's quite different from the one we did here because we're not using any try catch block here. That is because in this area here, we're going to use create async thunk to execute our HTTP request. So you'll see that shortly. But for now, I'll just export this so that it can be accessed from anywhere in our application. Now for this API URL, just a reminder, I'm going to bring up my Insomnia app. So Insomnia app is up, and what I'm looking for is the URL to create a product or the HTTP request to create a product. So I'll click on it, and you see here that we have localhost 5000 API / product. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do to make my life a little bit easier? At least I know the URL now, API / products. So what I'll do is I'll come here and I'll create a new variable. I'll call that variable, I'll say const, and I'll call it API underscore URL. Okay, and that's going to be equal to, and then I'll just have my backticks. Now because all the what's it called, all the URL, all the API endpoints for this particular product, they are going to be very similar. So what I'll just do is I'll just come here and say that I want to first point to my backend URL. So here I'll just say just a minute, I'm thinking. So here I'll just say dollar, and yeah, I'll first point to the backend URL. Aha, then I will now say /API /product. Okay, so you notice that this is what we have here, localhost 5000, which is this backend URL /API /products. Now you may be thinking, why don't I just drag this product dot blah 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 and slot it here? Well, you can do that if you want. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. So technically here I can now come here and just point to the API underscore URL. So you see, at least I've made it a little bit neater. So I know that the API URL for this one is this guy here, and then I'm sending the form data. Great. So now we go ahead and save this file, and then we'll head over to the product slice. We'll head over to the product slice, and we're going to now create the HTTP request using create async thunk. All right. So now I'm going to do it. It's going to be above this product slice, but just below the state. Okay. So I'll just come down below my state here, and then let me just have a comment here. I'll say create, because that's what I want to do. I want to create new product. So I'll say create new product. Aha. So here we're going to say const, and the name of the action we want to execute is create product, and I'll still use that name. That's going to be equal to, so here we're going to say create async thunk. Aha, so we have a autocomplete helping us out. Now this create async thunk, let's open it. So the first thing is we're going to give it like a name. So the convention or the documentation says that we should say products. So in this case, we're going to say products plural, because we are dealing with products, and then you now give it a name for what exactly you want to do. So in our case, I want to create a new document in my products database. Yeah, good. Now I'll now come down here. That's the first. Then I will now come down here and create an asynchronous function. So I'll say async, open this up, and then just open it up with an arrow function. Okay, now inside this arrow function, I'm going to do a I'll do a try and try catch block. Aha. So try catch block, what's going to happen in this try block, we are going to execute this function that we created in our product service. So for example, this create product function, we are going to execute it here. So you know what I would do? I would make it a little bit different in terms of the nomenclature. So you know we have create products here in the product services. So here I will say create new product just to make it different. So create, or you know what? I'll make this one different. So here I'll say create new product. Aha. Go ahead and save. Then I'll come here. So now here I'll be calling create new product. All right, there's another way we can do it though, but let me just do it like this so that okay, let me just change a little bit so that I don't have any conflict of interest. I'll just leave it as create product because that's what we're trying to do, but the way I will export it will be different. So see how I'm going to export it. I'm going to come down here and say const product service, and I'll make that to be equal to an object. Okay, so now inside this object, I will now add this create product. So let me copy that, and then I'll just paste that in here. Okay, now instead of exporting this create product and every other function individually, I'll just delete this export statement, and I'll come down here and export the product service. Okay, so here I'll say export, and I can even make it a default export. So I'll say export default and product service. Aha. So what this means is that when I want to access this create product, it will be through this product service, and therefore even if it has the same name with anything in our product slice, it doesn't mean, there's no problem there. So let's go ahead and save this file. Okay, so now I've saved it. So I'll come here and let's begin to execute that function to create a product. So for us to execute the function, we need to have access to the form data. So here I'll say form data. So that's the first argument here. Then we're also going to call the thunk API. So that's going to be thunk API, capital letter. Great. I can now come in here and then I'll just return the So I'll say return, and then I'll just await the product service. So product service dot, I'll now point to the function. So in this case, it's create product. Okay, and then I'll call that create product, and of course I'll just pass it my form data as well. All right, so this is how you execute a function inside of your thunk create async thunk function. So as far as our error catch block is concerned, I'm just going to come to my auth service. Remember, we've done the catch thing a lot of times in the auth service. So you see what we have here, this message we have here, it's going to come in handy. We're going to use it again here. So I'll just copy this error message, copy that, and then I'll just come back to my product slice, and then I'll slot it in there. Okay, so I've created a message that will catch the error in any possible format it is. Now, one thing I can do here is I can, first of all, I will log the error to the console. So this is where the error message starts and ends here. So I'll just come here and log the error to the console. Just a minute. Just want to make sure that I'm on the right try catch. Yeah. So first of all, I'll come and log the error to the console, log, and I'll just log the message rather. Then I'll now return. So here we're just going to say thunk API dot, now we're going to reject with value. So reject with value, and here we're going to pass the message. That's the error message. Great. So this is the setup for creating a product, and this one we actually spent a lot of time because it's the first one, so I didn't want to rush. I just wanted to take it very slowly so that everybody will follow. So now subsequently, now we're going to be very fast when we are creating other API requests to the back end. But for this one, this is the create product. Now that we've created a product, there are three states that this HTTP request can take. The first is a pending state. That is when you make the request but you've not gotten either a response or an error, so it's pending. The second is a success state. That's when you've made the request and then you got a good response. And the next one is an error state or a rejected state. That is when you make the request but you don't get your desired response. That means you get an error or something. So for us to capture all of that state, we need to head over to our extra reducers. So I'll now come down to the bottom here, and okay, so you see we've created the extra reducers already. I'll just open the extra reducers, and here I'll say builder, and then I'll just come down, and then we're just going to append the different states that the request can have. So the first one, I'll say dot, and then I'll just add a case. So add case. Let's open this up, and we're going to point to, so this is going to be pointing to create product, which is the async request, create async thunk request that we created up, and then the first state is dot pending. Okay, so when it's pending, I'll now add a comma, and this will take a callback function. So the callback function will give us access to the state, so callback, and then I'll just open it with an arrow function. All right, so now we can now go ahead and manipulate our state from here. So the first thing is that when it's pending, in other words, the request has been made but we've not gotten any kind of response or error, we're just going to say state dot is loading. So I'll set the loading to true. In other words, something has started loading, the request has started. All right, so I'll just duplicate this to save time. So I'll come here, duplicate this, and then next one is going to be fulfilled. So this is going to be create product dot fulfilled. Aha. So when it's fulfilled, what do we want to do? Okay, so first off, we want to set the loading to false, right? I'll close that. Then we want to set is success, because it's fulfilled, yeah. So success, that's going to be set to true. Okay, then we want to add this, this one. Now we are creating a product, so when we create a product, we want to add it to the list of all our products. All right, So here I'll just come down here, and for now I think what I'm going to do is I'll just log the action.payload. So here, for example, we're not just going to get access to the state, we're also going to get access to the action. Okay, so this callback function here gives us access both to the state and the action, gives us access both to the state and the action. So here I'll just log the, what's it called, I also want to log the action.payload to the console. So I'll just say action.payload, and in our case the action.payload will just be the products that we added. Remember, when we create a new product, we returned it back as a JSON file so that at least we can see what we created. So that's what I'm logging to the console. All right, next I'm going to now add this new product to my product array. So if you scroll up to our initial state, you'll notice that aside the fact that we have a single product, we also have this product array, which is going to hold the list of all our products. So now I'm creating a new product. I want to push this new product inside of my products array. So here I'll just say state.products plural, and then I'll say dot push. Okay, now this is not going to be equal to anything, because when you do dot push, you want to push something inside an array. It's an array method. So I'm just going to push my action dot payload. That's one. Then the last thing I'll do here is to throw a toast notification. So here I'll say toast dot success, and here I'll just say product added successfully. So I'll say product, capital letter, product added successfully. Aha, so that's it for, okay, there's one more state this can have, and that is when there's a problem, when we get a bad error response. This is when everything succeeds and our request is fulfilled. What if the request is rejected? By the way, let me import my toast. So like I said, I've not been able to import toast since I started building this project. So let me just grab it and just slot it in here manually. So I'll just come here and paste in toast. Great. So like I said, the next state is when it's when our request is rejected. So I'm going to scroll down here. Aha, I'll just duplicate this for field. So I'll highlight it like this and I'll duplicate it. So add case. This is now going to be create products dot rejected. Okay, now if it's rejected, what do we want to do? Well, if the loading, if loading is true, we want to set it back to false. Then is success, well, I don't think I need to set is success. I want to set is error. So here I'll say is error, and I'll set is error to true, which means that we have an error. Let me delete this payload. Then what else? I'm going to set the state.message, so that's what will hold the error message. So message, and that's just going to be equal to the action.payload. So whatever message we get back from the server, action.payload. And I'm just going to throw an error notification. So let me remove this one here. I don't need this products blah blah blah. Yeah, so I'll also throw an error notification. So I'll say toast.error, and that's going to be equal to action.payload as well. So let me just delete this guy here, action.payload. Aha. So I think at this point we can say that we have been able to at least create the HTTP request and everything that concerns fetching products from the back end. Now in the next one we are going to test it, but first we'll create the skeleton that we need to add the products. That's the form, and then we'll now link to these our functions here. So that's about it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.